Right, well done. You've done a big walk. Quite tiring going up the hill. This is one of the highest points on the South Downs. There aren't many places on the South Downs higher than this. This is 783 feet high, and I'm afraid I'm not sure what that is in metres, but when you get back to school you can check that, but it's pretty high up. And often in the winter you get snow up here when there isn't snow anywhere else, because it's that little bit higher and that little bit colder. Now, as Mrs. Harvey said, this is Chanctonbury Ring. Does anyone have an idea as to why this is called Chanctonbury Ring? Yes?
I don't know why it's pretend, but is it called ring because all the trees are in the ring?
That is it. Is it because a load of trees are in the ring? That seems the obvious answer, but it isn't actually the right answer, even though it's a good answer. Anyone got an idea? Ring? Why it's called Chanctonbury Ring? No. Well, if you look, obviously you can see the trees, and the trees are very obvious. But also, in a minute, we'll walk up and you'll see there's a ditch. And then there's the bank that rises up, and the other children are sitting on top of the bank. So there's a ditch that's been dug out, and it goes all the way round in a circle, forming a ring. So that's why it's Chanctonbury Ring. And that ring is much, much older than the trees. That was dug by people about 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago. Whereas the trees were planted about 250 years ago. Before that, there were no trees here. There was just the earthwork. Now this earthwork, this ditch that was dug out, has anyone got an idea what it might be? Yes, people of long ago. People of long ago came up here and they dug this because inside they had a temple, which is like a church or a synagogue or a mosque. It's a place where people came to worship 3,000 years ago, and they dug all the way round in a circle, just like people build a church. They want a building where everyone can go and sing hymns and worship God. They dug all the way round here just to say this is a very special place. And it's a very special place because when you stand on the top, even where we're sitting now, look around. Look how far you can see. You can see such a long, long way. And to those people all those years ago, this was all the land they knew. They could see their whole world from the top here. So you can understand why they think it was a special and holy place. So that's why it's Chanctonbury Ring. Sometimes people call it a hill fort. They think it was like a castle. But now archaeologists think, well, it may have been, but it's probably something to do with religion and worship. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the trees. And I said the trees weren't here more than 250 years ago, and these trees were planted, and they were planted by one person. His name was Charles Goring, and when he was about your age, when he was about 10, he lived in a big house at the bottom of the hill, and he used to look up at Chanctonbury and go, well, it's a lovely hill, but it would be even more lovely if it had trees growing on it. So every day, Charles Goring, as a boy, walked up with a little sapling. That's what you call a small tree, a sapling. And he dug a hole and he planted them. And he came up every single day of the year. So at the end of the year, there were 365 trees. And that was when he was a boy. And he lived to be a very, very old man. So old that he lived to see the trees fully grown. And he even wrote a poem about it. How happy he was that he'd planted the trees, and he used to come up every day to water them to make sure they didn't die. So that's a rather lovely story. And perhaps should we just go and have a walk inside, and I can just show you a bit inside, inside the ring. Now, okay, here's a question for you. As we're standing here, you look at these trees. They're quite big and tall, aren't they? And the trunks are quite thick. But these trees are all still quite small and young. Now, when I was your age, all the trees here were like these. So what do you think happened to the trees in the middle? Yes?
Did they get blown down?
They got blown down. In that, yes, You're right. 1987, long before you were born. 1987, there was one of the biggest storms that ever hit England. Huge storm. I remember it very well. There's lots of destruction and all the trees were blown down. But this is a weird thing. All the trees in the middle were blown down, but these trees around the edge weren't blown down. Now, why do you think that was? Yeah.
Because they're thick.
Yes, but these ones were thick as well. You've got to really think about it. Look at that tree. What's it growing in? See that tree? It's on raised ground, isn't it? It's growing in the embankment, so it's growing in deeper soil. So under here, if we dug down, the soil here is only about that deep. But the soil around the edge is, what, 2 or 3 foot deep. So their roots could go deeper. So even though they were on the outside and got hit by the wind first, they stood up. But the ones in the middle all got blown down. And when they got blown down and their roots pulled up the earth, that's when the archaeologists discovered all the remains that had been left by people thousands of years ago. The temple I told you about. In fact, there were 2 temples. One built by the Iron Age people and one built by the Romans. You've all heard of the Romans, haven't you? Yeah, because the Romans were in Britain for 400 years, and so there were 2 ancient temples on this site. So it's a very important site for archaeologists and a very important place in the South Downs. So, you know, you're quite privileged to live near it and to be able to come and visit. Now, I think you've all got to go back. Some of the rest of your school party already heading back, so you don't want to be marooned up here.